Tonight, Natachi Mez is a resident of dance. Yeah, Natachi's in the building. Natachi Mez is a resident of dance circles and unlined journals, locating herself through the rhythmic, the written, and the embodied, creating dynamic work that honors the senses, reminding you of her vitality and yours.
In this reflection, Natachi travels to love and with love, illuminating friendship as GPS.
Let's welcome to the stage, Natachi.
Hey y'all. Hey. How y'all feeling? Good. How y'all feeling? Wow, I'm so grateful to be here. Before I begin reading my piece, I invite you, if you feel so calm, to do what you're already doing technically, and breathe. I'm going to count to 3. Say inhale, hold it, and let it go. 1, 2, 3, inhale. Hold it, let it go. One more time, I want you to be really extra with your breath. 1, 2, 3, inhale. Hold it. Extra with the exhale. Hi. My name is... Hi. My name sounds so good on your tongue. Hi. My name is dissolving like salt, your presence, water, oceanic love. I have forgotten the solid of myself, and it doesn't matter. Laughing with you is floating. If I have a body, it is water. If I have a body, it is yours. Your name is. My name is yours. I am renaming cities. I'll call New York Maya, Nakima, Kendall, Christine, Janelle, Chisom, Mandy, Colin, Dominique. I'll call Oakland Ifunanya, Chidera, Shanga. I'll call Miramar Luke. Call Shaker Heights Abby. I'll call Sacramento Chinyere, Kalechi, Chidera, Chino, Chimdam, Okudo. My bloodline, I'll call it home. I'll call you home. Google Flights didn't understand a one-way trip to Damilola, so I wrote Philadelphia instead. But I knew where I was going. Knew love would find me there. And I found you. And you fed me. But in order to do that, you first fetched your mother like water over the phone. Fluid recipes pouring from her mouth to your ear. It's a miracle there was no water damage in this flood, this intergenerational act of love. Niger Recipe Hotline. A phone call is time travel and teleportation. A daughter seeking wisdom. A daughter seeking to feed her sister jollof rice steaming in real life. Puff puff fried, fish baked, a belly filled, a heart too. Turned my visit into a gathering, assembling community for tea and desserts in my name, in your name. Night falls, and so do our voices, quieter and truest, in bed, conversations in the dark, on love and losing it, on longing, on lingering. This is my friend. Where have we been from each other? I miss you, loving you poorly. How are you? Who are we? Where are we to each other? How to get to love on a map? You found me before. You called out your own name and I answered. How we locate each other in and with each other And I cannot forgive you for this love, for giving me your love. The problem is, y'all listen too good. Got my mom the perfume she whispered about. Secretly enlarged and framed a picture I took and gave it to me before your goodbyes. You folks always eavesdropping for how you might drop love on a doorstep like a gift to be opened. Signed, sealed, delivered by your love. You send me, darling, you send me your language in an envelope I am eager to open. Our vocabulary intertwined. Your dialect becomes mine, becomes yours, becomes mine. My Niger aunties, Chichi, Ifi, Chidera. I shudder at your love. In your love, we, each other's favorite and frequent photographers, widening the aperture. You all let the light in. Perhaps we are different bodies. Perhaps I can stare at these hands and call them mine, and you hold them, squeeze them. Click, I got each of you a photo album, and each one could belong to me, could belong to you. The intersection of our lives, developing. You have taken the wheel when my eyes get too heavy. Have taken my hands when my heart gets too heavy. Have placed your hands in my head, doing my hair before my bags get heavy. Baggage claimed baggage, pain in the dark room of our lives. Shaking our bodies, shaking our heads, processing what has been taken, processing what we have made and been made to be, soaked in solutions, drowning and made visible. We come up for air. Even our grief is an after image of love. An echo on paper. Multiple exposures. Layers, onions chopped, grilled to flavor a season where sisterhood and friendship are one and the same. And my first sister, a genesis. When did we become friends? When did the surface grow its ocean? When did we learn to swim again in our 20s, 5 a.m., and rebaptized in chlorinated waters? And then again in a salted sea, navigating treacherously reflective waters. When you ask me where I'm going, and I reply, to my friend's place. Just know that what I mean to say is, I'm going home.
Hello, Natachi. Thank you for joining us for the after release craft interview where you answer all of the burning questions that folks have per listening to your story. We thank you so much for joining us today, and we can't wait to hear some of your answers.
Thank you.
Yes.
I am really excited.
We are too.
So hopping right in, Natachi, to one of our signature craft questions that we ask all our storytellers, or all the people that tell stories at a release. How do you identify creatively? Do you consider yourself a writer, a storyteller, an artist, and why?
Yes, I probably resonate, or I definitely resonate with all of those titles. I would definitely say I consider myself an artist, a writer. I engage with embodied language. I think embodied language is a phrase that I have come to feel very connected to. I think a lot of it starts with language. And when I initially was thinking about that answer, right, I'm thinking almost in the written, but it's definitely not just the written, because the body has a language. And I think all of those come to play when it comes to how I tell stories. Yeah.
I'm curious as to whether you have struggled with claiming any, because I think you're exceptional in multiple uses of language. You do use your body when you're performing. You do have a certain cadence that lends itself to uh, listening to more than what you have to say because of how you're delivering it. It's
An
listening to the pauses.
experience.
It's listening. Yes, it's an experience, 100%. So I wonder if you've ever struggled picking one, and how did you come to say, I actually utilize all these things and I claim all these things?
Yeah, let's see. I I would say that there maybe would be a struggle if, because I love the combination of the different ways to access the language, right? The sound itself, right? So being able to hear me, and there's that aspect of being able to read something I create, or being able to watch me, and that watching might have the sound and the written involved with it. But I think maybe times I would struggle is when there would be that sort of like that one way to communicate it. Like,
Mm.
oh, with the writing, if it's just purely writing, how might I need to approach this? If someone is only going to access my voice through writing, do I want more? Oftentimes I would love more. But I think it then probably pushes me to consider how it does this thing live on the page, and can I make
Mm,
it dance if I'm not the one dancing, if I'm not the one
yeah.
speaking.
Oh, that's super
Yes, that's
And
interesting.
a very, because I think a lot of folks that we've interviewed have talked about adding more when you're talking about kind of like distilling this thing onto the page, kind of sacrificing parts of what you'd naturally use via multiple mediums to communicate the same thing, which leads us into the next craft question, which is how would you define your voice? I'm curious with all these mediums.
yeah, how would I define my voice? I would define my voice as traveling.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my voice feels like it's in a constant sense of seeking and reaching and bending, and just really honoring expansiveness. And I think that comes across in even that moment of I do not get out. I did not get out. That
Yes,
it,
yes,
just having
Play.
yeah, there's definitely a form of
yes.
play that I feel that is alive in my work, and that honors multiple realities, multiple truths, multiple access points. And yeah, it just seems like I would almost say maybe multivocal in a way, trying to honor multiple voices and in the same language. And my voice is one that I think troubles the simple, does
Mm,
not try to come down to some very, this is everything,
Hmm.
sort of conclusion.
yeah. And how do you find that you touched on this a little bit at the beginning of our conversation, but that your voice shows up differently in different mediums? And I guess maybe where do you feel like it's most alive? Is it in performance?
Ooh, I definitely feel very alive in performance. I think, yeah, it just really allows for a certain experimentation. Um, and I think even then coming to new understandings of my work and the different meanings it can hold. And I think with performance, well, there's just such like for me, I think such a direct engagement with others. You know, if I'm sharing a space with you, I see you, I feel you. And I oftentimes will, utilize forms of call and response or collective voice in these performances as well. And so just feeling that sense of, wow, we're here and we're here together. Let's go on a journey. That is something I really appreciate. Just feeling that aliveness, both within me and with those who I am communicating to.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned that your voice has the ability to sort of maintain or convey lots of different truths. So I'm curious, what is the function of honesty in your work?
Come on, question.
Especially because it's so playful. You just get it when you're hearing your voice, but also watching you perform. There is this playfulness that I think is a great access way to truth. So I do wonder what the function of honesty in your work is as well.
Yes. Wow. The function of honesty. Okay. I feel in part honesty also feels like a litmus test as in the process of creating and deciding that, okay, we're going to keep this line, or this is what I feel should stay or remain. And I think then with that honesty and paired with that feeling of honoring that a line can mean multiple things and be read multiple ways, I think honesty, the function of honesty in this work too, is me honoring that part of myself that really does not have that direct, or rather a simple, all-encompassing knowledge. And I think it honors the honesty that I feel of not wanting, I guess to limit what a meaning could be. And I even look confused as I say it. But that honesty of, wow, there can be so much more. There can be so much more, and wanting to remain true to that, wanting to remain true to the nature of possibility in my work.
I wonder what you would consider the anatomy of good story via the answer that you just gave, because there are styles. I don't know if you could speak to what you like as well, Glenn, of writing where I find comfort in certain definitiveness. You know what I mean? When somebody's like, this is what the fuck I think. And I also enjoy what you touched on, Natachi, which is like, I'm dancing with maybe this topic. I'm dancing with the answer. I'm not necessarily giving you the meaning of this thing. I'm forcing you to search for it. But I find comfort in both depending on where I'm at in my life.
You got to feel good
so,
on the ride too with the writer, I think. You're
fair.
willing to
That's fair.
parse through it all with them. If the story is well constructed, I think.
Yes.
So to that point, yeah, what is the anatomy of a good story to you, Natachi?
The anatomy of a good story. Ooh, no, honestly, no, shout out to, I have to say, nigga, shout out to those moments of like, yo, this author saying with their whole chest, okay? They got me like, you know what? Yes, that is the truth. That is what it is. Right. So I definitely honor that. And maybe that's the point. I'm like, I don't think there's only one way at all. The anatomy of a good story. Wow. I would say, anatomy. And the language of anatomy is so interesting too, right? Just like that very embodied, what creates it, what it's made out of, what it looks like, what it feels like. And I think for me, I think there is something that pulls you in. Not just for the nature of you coming close. Like, what you gonna do once I'm close? What are you gonna do once I'm close? You're gonna break my little heart? Are you gonna break my heart? Okay, that's besides the point. But the anatomy of a good story, I think, is something that I think it draws me closer. I think there's a sense of intimacy. I think there is a sense of, for me, I think it makes me ask questions. It makes me curious. It makes me hungry for more. And I think that is something that can be applied to so many different types of stories. But I think those stories that really also like sit in my stomach, sit in my heart, they make me wonder about this world I'm living in and how I'm inhabiting it and how I might interact with it going forward. And I really appreciate those for sure.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Super beautiful.
A few stories, yes, a few stories came to mind. For me, even when you said that, where it's like, yes, it is. Be it a poem or a piece of narrative work. The ones that I always remember that stick to me are ones that make me examine myself and the world around me. So that's an intimate process.
Yeah, and an honest one too.
And an honest one as well.
Yeah. Natachi, I'm curious what your relationship to sharing and releasing your work is. You seem so comfortable and, again, alive on stage. But has it always come naturally and easy to you? And what does it give you as an artist to be able to put your work out there? Like, what does it mean to you? How does it fuel your practice?
Thank you for that. And I briefly also just want to touch on, because before coming to this, I was going through my journal to sort of go to when I was first drafting the piece for Craft and Release. And also near that journal entry is me just really appreciating the title of this, of Craft and Release.
Oh, wow. Yes.
And
Thank you.
yeah, it's just that's one, the fact of release, that exhale.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that you're no longer attached to it, but it's sort of beyond you. It's not just yours anymore. And I just feel really inspired by the name of Craft and Release. I think it allows for, well, one, creation to occur, but also this sort of iteration. I don't know, this iteration, this deepening of one's practice, but not such a like a completely controlled on it into which it can't exist in the world. But in terms of, let me come back to the question before I completely forget about it. I have released the question almost. But okay, so let me. I'm gonna have to even re-ask.
No,
so
you were answering it actually.
You were.
That was like a big core part of it. So yes.
Oh my God.
And it was really like, has it ever been uncomfortable for you to get to that point where it feels good to you to release your work publicly, especially either on stage or in whatever form you give it out to others to receive?
Yeah, I think. Well, I definitely appreciate that release. I think the release also almost feels even like a part of the crafting process. They feel deeply connected. I think, especially for those spaces when the work is interactive. Like it's like, okay, this thing is also being co-created in a way. But it makes me think too, right? It's like not everything is getting released in a certain way, in the same way. And so I guess to get to that point of, I guess it's that question too, maybe that thinking of like the quote unquote purpose of a piece, or when it feels like, oh wow, this is ready to be in the world. Sometimes it can be a mix of, why did I create it? Sometimes there are things I create that have very specific either dates or events or moments attached to it. And then there are those other things that are kind of just born on their own accord, that kind of just somehow are born in the writing, born in the living and the singing to oneself. And those might find their way to a bigger audience, or it might be texted to a friend. Right. So yes. I just feel like there's so many different forms of release. But I definitely didn't always feel comfortable with releasing, even in the capacity of what I do now when it comes to these performances or shows. I remember I used to get really, like in my body, feel a deep sense of nerves, like when I think back to it, was that maybe, I think it was in like high school, when I kind of started to feel both compelled to share my work, but also like I felt this sort of anxiety in my body that I had not really felt when I was younger. I felt this this shaking of the voice, this like heating up of my head, like at the end of reciting something, like my muscles feeling so tense that I couldn't even really like look up after sharing something. And so it was definitely a difficulty, but it was interesting because no one was forcing me to read anything. I was still seeking it out. So it's definitely interesting to feel that sense of tension and conflict, but still feeling drawn toward the release regardless.
Yes. Yes. So feeling the fear and quite literally doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that like even the repetition of practice, because you are like anybody who watches you perform is like Natachi has been performing. You know, truly like just masterful performer. So it is, I think, will be a lot reassuring to folks listening or watching that you have gotten nervous before. So thank you for sharing that, Natachi. We probably have time for one burning question from us. That's the end of our craft questions. What were you gonna say, G?
I was going to say let's go a little longer.
Okay.
I got myself a little bit extra time because I am curious, Natachi, what is your practice? We spoke about the different ways that you tell your stories. How do they come to you? You said you mentioned that you journal. Is that where most of your stories begin? And then how do they continue to take shape?
Right. And frequency. I'm curious. Are you the right everyday type person? Or is it, when inspiration strikes?
Ooh, okay. My practice, my play. Okay, I also have to shout out Nika, your disciplines, okay, that you be sharing on social media. Oh my gosh. Me and my morning pages. They have their oscillations. But I'm currently having a return to morning pages right now.
I dig it.
In the midst of that daily journaling. So I definitely have my ups and downs when it comes to that space. But yeah, so I guess about my practice and how things are sort of born. It's definitely a mix of things. So one thing that I'm thinking about right now is how my practice is attached to community right now. There's a writing and performance collective I'm a part of in Sacramento, California. And we just had a show on Saturday. And sort of the premise of this collective getting together is all developing solo productions. Developing solo productions, so solo shows that probably have runtime around like up to an hour, give or take, per person, but developing them alongside each other in terms of, showing our work, sharing feedback with each other, and then also putting on shows where we show excerpts of the work that we're currently developing. So I think for this last show we had, a bulk of that writing that I performed a 15-minute piece from, a bulk of that was created last year in 2023, beginning of the year. I had done this. It's hosted. I don't remember the author who hosted it, but they do these sessions basically where you're supposed to write 1,000 words a day. And so they had a mini session, which was 6 days. So 1,000 words a day for 6 days. And I was like, okay, I'm going to work on this project that I said I was going to do. And I ended up sharing some of that excerpt last year as well. But for this year, I was really thinking like, okay, I'm going to present very new writing. I did not present very new writing, but my relationship with the writing, I think, grew in really meaningful ways. So it's interesting in that the craft part, right? I wanted to craft something different, something new, but it was developed more, I think, in the body, in terms of how I embodied it. When I first shared it, it was something I was reading still with movement and something that I was still really proud of. But this time the piece was committed to memory. This time we were in a theater, as opposed to the Brick House Art Gallery, which is also such a beautiful space in Sacramento. This time we were in a black box theater. We had access to lighting support. So then I was able to sort of reimagine this piece in a new way. And so with that, I think also being a part of this collective then also brings another form of accountability to revisiting the work, right? Because if we didn't have this show, would I have been looking at that script again?
Right.
Yeah, yes.
I don't know, right? But that act of like making this sort of collective promise and saying that I'm showing up on Saturday, March 2nd, 2024, and I want to show something meaningful and beautiful, and I trust that I can. And I'm going to do this with this group that I think is also telling really important stories. I think that's really special, and that's something I've been seeing as a form of crafting and releasing of doing things in community and showing up even when I don't show up in the way I really initially intended. But we show up and we figure it out.
Yes.
No,
Accountability
yes.
is a gift to have that.
Huge. And I think that's probably, such a powerful thing, and something that Glenn and I have been thinking deeply about for Craft and Release, is how do we do that as a community and work alongside each other, because it is powerful, even if it's co-creating in a different way. It is. So that's extremely inspirational to hear that you're looking to do that with community now,
Yes,
and that's
and that
part
you
of your
found it.
practice.
Exactly. Yes. Well, now we'll pivot to our burning questions. They're a little bit more specific to your piece, the piece that you performed at the release, which was just amazing. I was listening to it all over again ahead of this conversation and was just like, fell in love with it all over. Nika, I'll throw it to you to ask your first one.
Okay. I know rhythm plays a very important role in how you deliver things. You can hear it, you can feel it. I'm curious as to what your process of finding that specific cadence is in the piece that you shared, Natachi. Is it, do you hear it, then transcribe it? Or is it something that, you're waltzing in your living room and you're like, this is, this is exactly how I'm going to deliver this. Do you hear a beat? Because it's so much more than just, it does dance, and it from the words to the delivery. I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a mix. I was sort of I was rereading that journal entry where some of these initial like lines in the piece were like initially developed, some of the concepts developed, and it was interesting for me to just revisit that writing and see where there was like sort of a shift in it. It started off sort of in this free white, right? Very like sort of plain language. And then I go into this memory that is me visiting my friend in Philadelphia. And then suddenly, like, of course, I don't remember the exact feeling of the writing of it, but reading it, I just feel that pace change, that thing quicken, that some sort of urgency come in. And I think a lot of the rhythm feels like it's born in that moment. And so I think the writing itself, the language itself holds a lot of rhythm. But I think there are also times too, right, where I'm sort of exploring sounds out loud. And I might say something to myself, and then from there, it almost feels like that mix of freestyling.
Yes.
And I think the piece also can come alive in different ways. If I perform this in a different space, the way the words slip off my tongue can be different, and oftentimes will be. So it doesn't feel like I'm necessarily cementing rhythm, but I do feel like that rhythm, and also sometimes the rhythm that repetition brings also allows me to then crack a bit deeper into sort of how these little nuggets of friendship feel different across the different friendships, and how I'm able to explore it. Like the rhythm almost feels like a coming home, but the home is not always in the same place. But I think it's something that it's definitely a mix. I think it's born in that writing space and born when I speak it out loud. And I think especially after I read something, it might also then teach me a bit about how to speak it, how to say it. If it feels funny in the mouth, feels like, yeah, this don't really belong on my tongue.
Right.
Trim, cut.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
100%. So is rhythm essential to the way you compose stories and tell them? The way it sounds?
I think so. I think so. And I think it's about the way it feels too. I think also allows me to just find my way and journey through the piece as well. But yeah, I think it's definitely a very core element into how, and I don't know, and it's so interesting because I know you mentioned like how important is it, and it's, I don't know if it's also something that kind of just comes through me in a way. I think, especially as I got into that more urgent part of the writing where the words are closer together on the journal page, I think the rhythm kind of just finds me there as I'm asking questions. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you.
I want to zero in on one element of your piece where you use your friends as a device to depict different locations around the world. I think that is like really cool, where you're using their names to sub out different cities. How did that come to you as a concept?
Yeah, I'm like, I might have to revisit the little journal. I don't know if it starts here. Let me double check here. Let's see. Let us see what is in here.
We got the receipts.
Honestly. Oh, and then I was also looking at the document when I first like started transcribing the piece. And one concept I remember writing down was, friendship as travel.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Friendship as travel, where we intersect, where we depart. Iron that both sharpens and softens. And I don't even remember if that made it into the final piece at all, but just conceptually, that feeling of friendship as a vehicle, as a vessel. And just the literal fact that like, oh, y'all live in different places. Y'all literally are in different places. And I know when I was sort of spending time with that concept of friendship in my journal, I was just, also reflecting on the past year and moments that meant a lot to me. And they were in different places or with people from different places. And I think I found that, especially that moment that in the writing that I was revisiting, where I kind of felt that urgency. That was that moment when I was in Philadelphia and just thinking of like, oh wow, like I have missed you. Like I have missed you. And what that distance and closeness can do, and what that sort of remembering, reuniting can do, and how it brings you back almost like, where were we? Where the heck were we, y'all?
Yes.
Where were we? So yeah, that's how that concept came. Thinking of friendship as travel.
Yeah. Awesome.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
We have
beautiful.
one more thing that we'll do with you before we close. Natachi, if you remember, we have these conversation cards that everyone got when they came to the event. They're part of a series and conversation card pack that we have called All Too Human. And we have a list of questions about friendship that are on theme with the release. I have 1 through 100. You can pick a number, Natachi, and I'll give you the corresponding question.
97.
97. Oh, interesting. How do you handle friends who are always on their phone when you hang out?
I take the phone, put it into their glass of water, and I just say, hey, how are you? How's life? I had to do this yesterday. I'm kidding.
Okay, I was going to say that as a glass of water.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm kidding. I am kidding. How do I
I was believing it.
I'm sure
you have a good solution, though. You seem like a person who's very present when you're with people.
Yes.
Especially if you have long distance friendships.
For sure.
Oh my gosh. I feel like, well, funny enough, I did notice that this did happen with like just over a meal yesterday with someone. But in general, I don't know if I really deal with that as a conflict too much. But I think for myself, some days I just have to like flip my little phone upside down. Like I know sometimes I might have to bring it out the table, get my documentation on. But I feel like for me, how would I handle that? How do I handle that? Like I'm a little passive, y'all. I'm a little passive some days. I'll ask you a question, you don't answer. I'm like, all right, let me just sip this water. Probably not the greatest answer.
No, that's real.
Not the greatest answer, but probably a true one. Might record them. All right, ignoring me again. I think it also depends on who it is, right? There's different levels. That different level of comfort. Right. Like if say even thinking with my siblings. And you can feel that sort of like that absence, like the attention's any somewhere else. Like, oh, it's okay, you're not here. That's fine. Like I'm gonna just.
Right. You can call it out. You can call it out.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's something that happens quite a bit with like my siblings, who I also consider friends.
That's beautiful. And
my sister will be like, "Please, I'm here. I'm here." I'm like, "It's fine. Like you were doing something before." Like, so yeah, sometimes. Just like, okay, I'm gonna sip my water, eat my little bread. Other times,
and be ignored.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna spend time with myself over here together.
Natachi, thank you so much for joining us today. You gave such poignant answers. This was a breath of fresh air, and we hope to, listeners can incorporate a lot of the things that you said, because there's tons of beautiful elements that can be taken away from this interview and applied to your own practice.
Thank you. And no, thank you both, really, because the space that y'all have crafted with Craft and Release, the place that y'all have crafted and released, it was honestly such a nourishing experience to be a part of.
Thank you.
Feeling that I have even my own new friendships brewing from it. I have the current friendships that were also really nourished by it. And just, I feel like y'all are really creating a space that really invests in people and community growing and people really building meaningful connections. And I think a lot of people are hungry for that. And y'all got the sauce.
Thank you.
Y'all got the sauce. I gotta say. So it's really a beautiful thing to be a part of.
Thank you so much. You're stuck with us now, so Sacramento Club and Craft Room.
Come on.
Right. Exactly.
Right.